Welcome. Welcome, everyone, to the first Founding Mothers Town Hall. So, my name is Lyudmila Lipskaya, and I am a member of the Global Peace Room, the inner governance circle that serves the Founding Mothers movement. And as we start, I invite you to tune in together to center and connect our energies. As you're sitting comfortably, I invite you to soften your gaze and take a deep breath in, exhaling softly and gently, arriving here and now, being present in this virtual circle. As you keep breathing, please bring your attention to your heart. And imagine you breathe through your heart, inhaling deep, expanding your heart, exhaling, softening, allowing the energy to expand and spread. And I invite you to imagine our virtual gathering, all the wonderful people who gathered together, sitting here in the virtual circle with a heart connection. And imagine how we create the heart-to-heart connection between each other. So we are merging our heart energy. We're making this circle strong. And I also invite you to shift your consciousness from ordinary to extraordinary and connect to the vision of the global partnership and peace, the common vision we can hold together to create that shift in the humanity evolution into the flourishing world where people live in harmony with all living beings, in harmony with each other, in just and equitable world. And as we hold this vision together, please bring your attention back to where you are. And gently open your eyes, hold that vision within you. And we'll start with our launch video, which will vividly illustrate why we have gathered here today.
Women and men around the world are celebrating the birth of the Founding Mothers movement to secure universal rights for all women and to end war. Simply put, we've had enough of patriarchy and privilege. We will no longer tolerate family violence, sexual assault, child marriage, girls who can't go to school or let their hair down, men depriving us of reproductive freedom, or sacrilege against Mother Earth. The military-industrial complex trains men to kill on command. They're also weaponizing AI. Soldiers rape women as a staple of war, and surviving women and children are left homeless. The founding fathers of every nation have brought us to where we are. Now, the Founding Mothers are joining together to lead us into an era of partnership and peace, a future that works for everyone. We're a global coalition, uniting women's groups, peace organizations, spiritual communities, and environmental groups. We're taking action to shed archaic belief systems, transform barbaric behaviors, eradicate misogyny and racism, and protect democracy. Instead of a war room, we're building a peace room. And we're spreading truth, love, and light. We serve as diplomats and peace negotiators, business leaders, elected officials, caregivers, and wisdom keepers. And we've got a concrete plan to grow this into the mother of all movements. First, we wish to honor the Mother's Day proclamation written by Julia Ward Howe. Mother's Day was not created for gift cards and chocolates. It was a call to action for an international Congress of Women to pursue the great and general interest of peace. Second, we're reimagining the Women's Congress. It will network thousands of women's groups around the world. Third, in addition to unifying our sisters around the world, we're inviting our brothers to join us. Stakeholders who lead peace, spiritual, and environmental groups. Just imagine our united strength when we, the people, organize. We'll move mountains if we focus on two specific goals: partnership and peace. Please join the Founding Mothers movement today. If you lead a women's organization, register for our online Women's Congress and help compose the Founding Mothers Manifesto. If you lead a peace, spiritual, or environmental group, enroll your organization in the coalition and help transition humanity from patriarchy to partnership. And if you're an individual who understands that our future is at stake, sign up for our mailing list, donate, volunteer your skill set, and be ready for a series of escalating campaigns starting on January the 1st, 2025. Join the Founding Mothers movement and help transform the world.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eleanor LeCain, and I'm also a member of the Founding Mothers Peace Room. I'll be sharing a few ideas on how we can navigate these challenging times and make the vision you just saw come into reality. For decades, I've focused on solutions that show the way to a new America and a new world. I've worked with candidates and elected officials to offer a vision of a new way of living on the planet and practical pathways for bringing that vision into being. We now live at an incredible moment as an old order is crumbling and a new order is trying to be born. A new world is possible, but it's not guaranteed. What happens now depends on what we choose to do. The old order is not going quietly. Around the world, authoritarians are gaining power. Often they're voted into power by people angry about having so much money being channeled to the already wealthy and then bearing the disrespect and hardship that comes from financial struggle. The gross wealth inequalities make people susceptible to demagogues who promise to make life better for them, even as the demagogues grab power and wealth for themselves and their super rich friends. Even in the United States, long a beacon of freedom and democracy, an authoritarian is about to take power. This is a challenging moment. When we pay attention to what's happening, we can feel fear. In the US, women are losing rights we thought were won long ago, including the right to control our own bodies. The incoming president is already taking steps to shut down other protections we take for granted, crippling agencies that provide environmental protection, support for public education, and the safety net for people who need help with food and shelter. He's attacking the civil service, which protects professionals doing their jobs, and planning to replace them with lackeys loyal only to him, including in the military. There's a bill in Congress right now that would enable them to designate nonprofit organizations as terrorist groups, a way to shut down those who might challenge what they're doing. So there are many reasons to be afraid. But as spiritually aware beings, we don't want to let fear hijack us. we can choose to see this rise of authoritarianism as the last gasp of an old order. We can focus on the opportunity in this moment. We can shift our awareness from fear to love and the opportunity to create a new world based on love. It's important for us in these times to find that still center inside ourselves. Take a deep breath. Do a daily practice. Focus on love. At the same time, we want to be careful about spiritual bypassing. There can be a danger of thinking, well, I'll ignore what's going on and just wait for the new world to appear. A new world is possible, but not guaranteed. It depends on what we do. So we want to navigate these turbulent waters by, on the one hand, not getting sucked into the fear of what's going on around us, and on the other hand, not escaping into a fantasy that we can stand by and expect it's all going to magically work out. So how do we do that? My strategy for navigating these challenging times is to engage with what's going on around us, oppose the efforts to strip away women's rights and human rights, and support efforts to build what we want in our lives and communities. Make sure we don't get sucked into a negative vortex of fear. Understand that this could be a good time, a time of transformation. It's time for us to hospice the old world and help give birth to a new world. It's time for the women of the world to gather for planetary partnership and peace. A big part of that now is the Founding Mothers movement, working towards it. And we need leaders who can help us move and create this new world. One of the great leaders of our time is with us today, my friend Marianne Williamson. For more than 4 decades, Marianne has been a progressive spiritual leader and the author of 16 books, including 4 #1 New York Times bestsellers. 2 of her books focus on American politics, Healing the Soul of America and A Politics of Love. And she's got an amazing new book about the mind of love. Marianne has been a grassroots activist for 35 years, focusing on democracy, peace building, women's empowerment, poverty, and racial reconciliation. In 1989, she founded Project Angel Food, which has delivered more than 18 million meals to ill and dying patients in the Los Angeles area. In 2004, she co-founded the Peace Alliance, which supports the creation of a U.S. Department of Peace, a goal the Founding Mothers movement shares. She hosted Sister Giant conferences to strengthen female participation in the political process. In both 2020 and 2024, Marianne ran for the nomination for the Democratic presidential nomination, highlighting issues like race and reparations, environmental justice and climate action, and fixing the American healthcare system. In 2020, I served as the Director of Policy for Marianne's presidential campaign, and it's a joy to be with her again today here. We're delighted that Marianne supports the Founding Mothers Movement core mission of planetary partnership and peace. Welcome, Marianne.
Thank you. Thank you, Eleanor. It's an honor to be here. Honor to be here with you, to have heard your words, to have heard the words of Ludmila as well. And I appreciate the opportunity to just share my take. This is such an important idea here. I've long been someone celebrating the words of Julia Ward Howe, the original Mother's Day proclamation, the call that the women who were the mothers of sons who had died for the North and the mothers of sons who had died during the South, for the South during the Civil War, calling us together for a great Congress. Anyone can feel the seriousness and the sincerity of those who have put together this Congress and these beginnings in order that we might give birth to something new. The very idea of founding mothers. Young women, we need, in order for the human race to survive, we obviously have to have young people, have to have young women whose bodies can still conceive children. But if we don't conceive more wisdom on this planet, then it still will not be a survivable place for those children. So no matter what our age, our consciousness is the womb, as it were. And just as the cervix opens, right, we are conceived, a woman is conceived, by semen, we are conceived with new consciousness, with new ideas. That is this world that is struggling to be born. And no matter what our age, and to some extent, it could be argued that the older a woman is, almost the more liable she is, the more fertile, the more possible that she conceived anew, simply because of the accumulation of human experience. And so in consciousness becomes the womb. We are impregnated by new ideas. We are pregnant with those ideas. And it's not always easy. It's not always an easy pregnancy. And I think that pregnancy and the birth is what's trying to happen right now. I would like to share a few thoughts I have about not just the goals, but the process by which this movement is initiated and brought forth into the world. Because process is as important as the goal. As Gandhi said, the end is inherent in the means. So even though I agree with everything that has been said here today, and I particularly appreciate that we were first brought into the space of heart. Another concept from Gandhi, he said politics should be sacred. And by that, he didn't mean doctrine, he didn't mean dogma. He meant really what's happening here today, that we were brought into our hearts, that the conversation begins from having been brought into our hearts. Dr. James Doty, a neuroscientist at Stanford Medical School, I heard him talking about the fact that scientists have now discovered that there is a highway of sorts between the brain and the heart that was previously unrecognized. And because of that, it used to be thought by scientists that the brain was the intelligence center of the body. We were all raised to believe that. With this new recognition, they understand that it is the partnership of the brain and the heart that actually forms the intelligence center of the body. And of course, we would all agree, it also, that partnership informs the intelligence center of any one life and of society itself. I think we would all agree that what has happened to our society is that there is such an imbalance of a brain disconnected from heart. The most evil phenomena in the world has often been perpetrated by very smart people. Just being smart takes a lot more than being smart. Today, you see an example of this with efficiency. We're going to have an efficiency project, but I think we all need to remember that efficiency itself is values neutral. The Inquisition was efficient. Auschwitz was efficient. We need more than efficiency. We need love, we need empathy, we need harmony, and we need peace. Now, I want to go back a little bit to what we've already experienced here. Remember that initial Women's Congress was mothers of sons from the North and mothers of the sons from the South. What does that mean? It means all women have to feel that this movement is a safe space. I would like to respectfully submit, and I am a left-winger, there's no doubt about it, but I've experienced enough and I've seen enough and I've talked enough to audiences to know that just as there are buzzwords that make a left-winger bristle, there are words that make a right-winger bristle. If everything from our video to our conversation is so filled with code words that lean left, then half of American women will feel that that's not for me. So I'd like to respectfully submit, I think patriarchy is even loaded today. I think privilege is a loaded word today. And how are we going to embark on a movement that actually makes a difference? And I say this once again with great respect for what's happening here. If we are going to start by making it clear that we believe, which I do, once again, that's not the point here, that Donald Trump is an authoritarian, then all those millions of women who, this is what I learned running for president, they don't think he is. We have to respect that. We have to, if we're going to practice what we preach, We have to be willing to walk out of our own silos. We have to be willing to listen. And that means listen to other women. So what I would, Martin Luther King, any of the nonviolent political philosophy, as articulated first by Gandhi and then picked up by Dr. King for application to the civil rights movement. Self-purification is necessary first. That's, and that's a kind of a religious, spiritual idea that first you have to clear your own consciousness. And I have seen in my quite a bit of experience now, there is as much smug self-righteousness on the left as on the right, and arrogance, and we're right and you're wrong. Now, I didn't see any of that here. I'm not saying that I'm seeing smug self-righteous, none of that. But we want to be very careful in giving birth to this new world. Our language itself must be nonviolent. And anything that in any way would make anyone feel this is not, would be my concern. Some people I know who are conservative women who I know would belong here and need to be here for us to be what we want would feel it's not for me. And so often when I would counsel with couples in my career, a lot of my work would be saying to the husband or the wife or the, whichever, the woman, man, could you please say what you said again, but could you please relanguage that in a way that is not an attack on the other person? In other words, their emotional and psychological, even intellectual point was deeply legitimate. But Martin Luther King said, you have very little morally persuasive power with people who can feel your underlying contempt. I'd like to say that again. You have very little morally persuasive power with people who can feel your underlying contempt. So we are living at a time where everybody, us and people who don't agree with us, the words are so important. And so I would suggest that in order for this movement to be all that it can be, that we are always checking ourselves. And I also believe the only reason, this is my personal political and spiritual belief, the only reason that authoritarians have had the power that they have accrued in the United States or anywhere else is because of a great void that was left. A great void that was created, not only that was created, but was predictably created. Because anybody with even the slightest knowledge of history knows that whenever you have large groups of desperate people, that desperate people become a petri dish out of which all manner of personal and societal dysfunction becomes almost inevitable. And that includes ideological capture by genuinely psychotic forces. Okay? Now, when I was a child, my mother used to say, a woman's most important function is that she take care of the children and take care of her home. I thought my mother was old-fashioned. As I matured in my life, I realized she was correct. The archetype was correct. It's just that today, that means every woman's child. And that means the earth itself, which is our home. I believe the more we state what we want and articulate what we want, because the temptation is to describe and articulate what authoritarians want. We need to describe and articulate what we want. And that is that we have 12,000 children on this planet starving every day. In every advanced mammalian species that survives and thrives, A common characteristic of that species is the fierce behavior of the adult female when she senses there is a threat to her cubs. These are the kinds of pillars that we need to hold, that no child will be hungry on our watch, that there will be no unnecessary suffering among children on our watch. And so I think there's a temptation to describe what they're doing, maybe more than we need to, if in fact it crosses the line into something that would seem like, I don't know about that, to women who don't necessarily agree with us, and describing in even more detail, what is the world we want? We want a world in which war is just a memory. War is just something they have in a museum. Name it and describe it. We want a world in which no child is hungry. And then when Eleanor was saying, and we have strategies about that, absolutely, because, for instance, that would take the richest nations of the world forgiving certain debts. I mean, there are, and for certain loans, I mean, there are specifics, as Eleanor was said, and you can't get anyone better than Eleanor to actually be in charge of that strategy. But our inception, it's like in pregnancy, guys, beginning is everything. It's interesting, isn't it? Because when a woman is pregnant and she's not even showing yet is when the most important stuff is happening. And so this is the moment to, I believe, really look at everything that we are saying, everything that we are doing. You don't have to, and what I've learned, and I've learned this being out there, guys, you don't have to in any way compromise your values. You don't have to in any way compromise even your positions. But sometimes if you lead with the position without first laying the ground, it's kind of like at the beginning of the Declaration of Independence. The lines, Jefferson wrote some lines in that original preamble part where he said, when this happens, it becomes incumbent upon us. When one nation wants to separate from another, something the lines are, it is incumbent upon us to explain why. So this is so significant. Sometimes I think we leave out certain words and jump to buzzwords that to many of us, like, oh yeah, I get it. Well, to many others, those words are exactly what have been invalidated in their minds by people who do not want us to get anywhere. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to be part of this conversation. We do have a new world to create. And one of the things that I, particularly because of my own background, am so grateful for is that the spiritual is not left out here. I was joking with someone the other day, and everybody's always scrolling through Instagram and scrolling through TikTok and all that these days. Who are the only people, if you look, what did CNN say? What did MSNBC say? What did Fox say? What did the conservative commentator say? What did the liberal and the progressive commentator say? Who the only people that you can look at over the last few months and say, they got it right? Maybe not on specific people, but what was about to happen. Do you know who got it right more than anybody? The astrologers. It's really interesting. We laugh about it, but I also remind you that to the founders, astrology was a gentleman's art. Look at the Great Seal of the United States. It's a Great Pyramid at Giza with the capstone return, Novus Ordo Seclorum, New Order of the Ages. Also, for those of you who are into those kinds of things, you have the birthday of the country is in Cancer. The elections are in Scorpio. The original date for the inauguration of the president was Pisces, which was a grand trine. So I love the fact that here the conversations are open to without apology, and to me that is feminine. On the other hand, I should say at the same time, please remember a lot of those women. I know this is kind of mind-boggling for many of us, but it's a mind-boggling moment, voted for Trump. Especially with a lot of the food thing. So I think that's my final sort of submission with great respect before we move into any questions I can answer, et cetera, is we have to really be clear with our own hearts, to be harmless in our language. And in today's world, you don't have to be proactively attacking to be passively invalidating. I'd like to repeat that. You don't have to be proactively attacking to be passively invalidating. And I submit that there's as much of that going on the left as on the right. And so let us check ourselves. Let our constant checking and monitoring and creation of the process be as sublime and as heart-centered as our goal. So this is, in a way, a blessing on this child, this new civilizations trying to be born, mothered by our humanness, fathered by the greatest ideas of all time. And may we live up to the examples that have been set for us by women throughout history who disrupted old orders of, yes, such things as patriarchy, but look at the language of the suffragists. The language of the suffragists was universal. The language of Dr. King, universal. Let us strive to be that pure. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Marianne. We are so grateful to have you here today sharing your wisdom for the founding mothers and our future. As the video explained, our mission is to attain global partnership and peace. We believe the core issues at the center of this polycrisis are the continued subjugation of women and the scourge of war. Once these two existential threats are resolved, all other threats facing humanity are remediable, like global warming, wealth inequality, and unchecked corporatocracy. To build the mother of all movements, we did not start another nonprofit. Instead, we are organizing a meta-unity coalition of nonprofits and world citizens. We believe that the vast majority of humanity shares our values: to protect truth, to share love, to follow the light. We hope that after this town hall, if you are not already a member, you will join Founding Mothers Movement. There are 3 ways to join: as a world citizen, as a partner group, and as a delegate to the Women's Congress. So our reimagined Women's Congress is the body that maps and manages the movement. Female representatives from our partners come to the Congress once a month to discuss and deliberate how to strategize and implement the movement. Then the delegates report back to their organization. In this way, the information flows in and out of the Women's Congress. Also, men are integral to the Founding Mothers Movement and help lead our 5 operational circles. Our functional circles meet once a week, and they include the media circle, the tech circle, partner circle, campaign circle, and the proclamation circle. Since convening in July, we've held 5 sessions of the Women's Congress, and we've passed the following proposals. We adopted our unique governance system, a blend of sociocracy and indigenous wisdom. We appointed the initial peace room, the trustees of the movement. Each of us represents a different sector of society and an animal totem. We passed the Founding Mothers Proclamation, a 5-page document that succinctly sets forth our demands for women's rights and the cessation of war. We passed our Covenant of Care and Conflict Resolution process, and our most recent proposal established our first direct action event, which will start on January 1st, 2025. Our campaign is called the Weekly Worldwide Wake Up, and Laura will tell you about this soon. So Laura?
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura George, and I'm also a member of the Peace Room for the Founding Mothers. But before we talk about our plans for 2025, we would like to, at this midway point of the town hall, open it up for questions. And if you would raise your hand, use that function. Tell us where you're from, your name and where you're from. And also, if you want the question directed at someone like Marianne, let us know that too. So we'll take a couple questions right now. And Becky, if you could put us in gallery mode, I can see. Okay, Jennifer Grinstead. I see Jennifer's hand up. Can we unmute Jen?
Yes, Jennifer, you're invited to. Oh, you got it. You turned on your video. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. My name is Jennifer Grinstead, and I'm located in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm very happy to be here today. So thank you for the time. I do have a question, and it is for Marianne. I do feel like my generation is going to bear the brunt of many of the upcoming changes. But my generation is very busy with life distractions, raising kids, elderly parents, our careers, our mortgages, for those of us who have mortgages. So I'm wondering, how have you managed to inspire my generation? And how do we become more involved with the Founding Mothers movement?
Jennifer, I think that every generation has its own wisdom. That's actually an old Talmudic concept, that every generation brings its own wisdom. There are things that I can say about my generation, born of my own visceral understanding, that you can't quite see. But there are things about your generation born of your visceral understanding I cannot see. I can understand the facts that you just mentioned, and I agree with you. I mean, I can see them. You don't, that's, you can see the facts. But in terms of coming up with the wisdom, the cry of the heart, that's really the mission and the task and the dharma of your lifetime. I believe in honoring our incarnation, and your generation is part of your generation. To find your own voice. I think what the mothers movement can be is a tent, much like I was saying before. Hey guys, you got to make this feel friendly for women who don't agree with you politically. If you live in Raleigh, North Carolina, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So, and then the last time I spoke with some of these women, we talked about making it open also for younger women. So I can speak for everyone, saying, very glad you're here. And our support is to help you find your voice. You tell us, one of the things we were talking about in a more private group, that in a meeting like last week, is that you got to get some young people in here. They speak a different language in terms of the media, a different language in terms of imagery. So I would hope that this movement would be a place where you are supported in finding your voice, not where you're looking to us to give you a voice. And that's particularly important because part of how patriarchy, how it's all worked, is a kind of infantilization of women, right? You're a grown woman. May I ask how old you are?
I'm 41.
All right. Well, you're an adult woman. I mean, you are, and also I do want to say this, and as an older woman, the 20s are hard. They're not a mental illness, but they're hard. And also, I know I say on behalf of a lot of people here, we get that you have economic pressures on you we didn't have when I was your age, largely because of the economic injustice and all the things that we talk about. So my hope would be that this movement would be a place where you feel that your voice is incubated. And then, there was a man named Arnold Patton who said something that has always guided me in my work. If you genuinely have something to say, there's someone out there who genuinely needs to hear it. Let this be a place where your voice, you're finding your voice, you're tweaking your voice, you're coming to, but that will entail your listening to women on all, there's no better laboratory for this in North Carolina, actually. I will be in Asheville, by the way, doing a fundraiser for hurricane relief in December. Yeah. So I hope that speaks to you. I think that the job of the rest of us is to say, welcome, all of you is welcome, including the fact that you're living with that difficult thing called being in your early 20s, plus all the economic things. How can we be a place where you feel welcome, putting your voice, expressing your voice, and also giving to this movement? Spiritually, you only get to get what you give. This movement needs you. We were joking. It's a lot of boomer women, this movement, in order to really have the impact it wants, needs to have the ideas, the voices, the imagery, the technological stuff of people like you.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we will take one more question. Let's see. I see Quanta's hand is up. Do you want to unmute, or we'll unmute you? Also, Marianne, Jennifer said she was 41 years old.
Oh, 41. I thought she said
Yeah.
21. Oh, well, if you're 41, Jennifer, if you're 41, you have a voice. Own it. May this place be don't let you avoid in your own thinking any patting on the head. You just be a nice girl now. We'll take care of it. They're not taking care of it.
She's
That's
got a
why we're
big
here.
voice.
Thank you.
you.
So
41.
let's see.
Well,
I
I
thought you
know.
said 20.
Uh,
Wait a minute. I have to go back to that. I'm sorry. I have to go back to that.
Sure.
Did Jennifer say what part can younger women play? Is that what you said, Jennifer?
Oh, she's muted.
You're
All
muted,
right, I'm
honey.
just
There we go.
I am curious in how we get younger women involved.
Oh, how we get younger women involved.
My question really is about how do I get my generation or women who are balancing all of life's distractions and
Okay.
very
Okay.
important things like raising
Okay.
children and taking-
When I wrote my book, A Woman's Worth, I was 40 years old. And it was about kind of, this is what I've learned at 40. And it's interesting because now women at 20, it's sort of cult following among women 20 because it's what in my generation was women 40. I would like to respectfully submit that all forms of identity politics be left out. And what we have done with age is absurd. Right? This generation, the boomer generation versus X versus millennial versus young, we have made of ourselves the disunited states by separating ourselves too much. If you're 41, just speak from your womanhood. You are young and you're old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're at the beginning of your cronehood and you're still. So thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's drop those separation things.
Thank you.
It's not helping us right now. If you're 18 or you're 80, I always say in my audiences when I was running, whether you're 18 or you're 80, I'm talking to you.
All right. Do we want one more question? We're going to move on. We've got a couple more speakers.
You have given me the mic and then you went back. Well, this is Quanta Dawnlight. I wasn't born with this name, and I am late 70s, so that since age is a subject, what I wanted to ask was, we women relate to man as mothers, daughters, sisters, wives. So I was wondering, because we have this multi-level roles that we play in our relationship with the males. So what can we do to inspire and encourage all women so that they can reach out to their fathers, their sons, their brothers, and their colleagues, and also encourage those men that are already here, do the same, so that we have an exponential growth, not just talking among ourselves, but make it a goal that after this meeting, everyone sets a goal, maybe 2 or 3 or 5 people that they can share this message with and encourage them to join this movement that you have started. Congratulations. Thank you.
The only way to share a message in a way that is meaningful is to demonstrate it. This is not about proselytizing. This is about attraction, not promotion, as they say in AA. I know there's some men on this call, and some men have already spoken. This goes back to what I was saying before, watching our own language. There's a lot of conversation about safe spaces for women these days. Another conversation that matters on an emotional and psychological level is safe spaces for men. Let us be a safe space for men. We don't need to tell men or women what they need to say to go get men to come here. We have to be what we say we are, and it attracts everything we need. And so I think, it's interesting. You're talking about being in your late 70s. What happens is on both ends of the life spectrum, when we're very young and we're very old, sexual stuff is not what's happening. It's not filtering our stuff with men. And that sexual filtering, sexual stuff is something all of us have to work through, and it's a big deal. And sometimes it forms a lot of separation because it forms a lot of fear on both sides. The value of being an old woman and entering into the crone years is that it's an interesting thing. I've seen it in my own life. Men are a little less afraid of us when that's not such a major filter. Just speak with love to men. Speak with respect. There's a woman named Pat Allen who is a psychologist in California. I used to go hear her lectures all the time. She said a man's greatest psychic need is for his thoughts to be respected. And a woman's greatest psychic need is for her feelings to be cherished. And I had not realized until that time that I was not as respectful towards men as I should be. And even in this whole women's space, there's a lot of easy knocking of men. Oh, well, how men are. Not that I've seen any of that here, but it's something to watch out for, because men these days don't feel that they have the right to complain about that. But I can see a man not wanting to come back because he doesn't feel it's a safe space. So just as there's a divine feminine, there's also a divine masculine. Just as you want to have safe spaces for women, let this be a safe space for men, where we want to hear from them. That this not be a place where men feel, okay, now you just sit down and listen. That's what was done to us. That's not what we want to do to anyone else. We would love to hear your thoughts about that. Demonstrate it. It's not about, once again, please remember that it's attraction, not promotion, particularly at the beginning. When my career began, the niche of my career didn't exist yet. So I wasn't thinking words like bestseller. I wasn't thinking words like clicks on the internet. Everything that's part of the corruption of America. How do we make it big? How do we grow on the horizontal level? No, how do we grow on the vertical level should be our question. How do we have depth and purity and harmlessness and nonviolence and respect and love for others, not just in policy, but in how we even behave and speak? That's what I would suggest, that there be in whatever way the women who are leading all this deem appropriate, a way to ask men their thoughts.
Well, Marianne, as usual, you're prescient because our next speaker is a man, and Ludmilla is going to introduce him. Thank you so much, Marianne.
Thank you so much. I'm going to stay and hear that, and then I do need to go to my next thing, I assume, if you're finished with, right? But I will hear him because I want to hear that. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Marianne. And thank you everyone who shared their thoughts and wisdom in the chat. So now we want to hear from Dr. Paul Zaitz, one of our founding mothers partners. So Paul is a physician, epidemiologist, author, and award-winning champion of global justice and human rights, drawing on over 35 years of advocacy and political leadership. Paul is the initiator of Unify Movements, a platform dedicated to catalyzing love-centered social, economic, and political systems committed to our collective repair, justice, and peace. In July 2024, actually the same month as we launched Founding Mothers Movement, Paul started Unify USA, as a peaceful political movement calling for citizens' assemblies to establish a new branch of our government and renew our democracy with the deliberative voice of all the people. In his book, Revolutionary Optimism, Paul offered a roadmap for personal and global liberation. The book contains a step-by-step guide to remedy the anxiety and hopelessness and many people are feeling at this critical juncture in human history. So his goal is to ignite our collective flame, so we, the people, will unify to heal and transform our world. So over to you, Paul.
Hey, thank you, Ludmilla, and it's a great honor for me to be here. I feel like we're a soul sister with all of you, and honored and feeling safe to be able to share my heart and my ideas, and uh, and the synchronicity between what Marianne has been doing and speaking today, and her campaign and her activation of the idea of a love-centered revolution, which really lifted me throughout these last 2 years as I've been developing all this work. So great to be with you today as well. I put some links up in the chat to follow up with any of these ideas, and I'm going to share a short. I'm going to try to share this. It's not quite working. I don't know how to do that. It's trying to share my screen. Yeah. Let me see if this works. If not, I just ask you to open that first link up called Ready America. And it's not quite sharing my screen, so I'm going to stop trying to do that.
I can share it for you, Paul.
Oh, that would be great.
I'll do that.
Sorry, that would be
You
perfect.
can stop your screen share and I'll do it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to move through this fast. I only have a few minutes. And I want to share these ideas humbly and graciously. I've discussed these ideas with the Peace Room, the trustees of the Founding Mothers Movement. I'm deeply inspired by the Founding Mothers Movement. I think it's a movement whose time has come, and we really need that to happen as it is happening. And it's just an honor to be here with all of you. So this is a campaign idea called Ready America. And this idea that we're at this crossroad, this moment of peril or this moment of possibility. And while we're resisting the new system or the new government and all its perpetration against women and its violence, we also want to invite people to explore creating the new systems and building a movement for building the new. So next slide. And as I've learned from Marianne and many others, we have to get at the root cause of what's going on here. We're living under a founding document, our US Constitution, that was written over 250 years ago. And it has certainly outlived its lifespan. You can go to the next slide, please. Right now, this piece of paper has bound us to the past. And I believe, as I think all of you do, it's time to live with our sights on the future. We have advanced in so many ways, and yet we're holding fast to the rules and the systems created by white men many generations ago that make no sense today. If this were an Apple iPhone, we would be way beyond version 15.1 by now if we were modernizing our founding framework as we should. Next slide. And nothing is holding us back from making updates to the Constitution or even transforming it and reconstructing it. We own it. We are the people. And America's talk of freedom, yet we tie ourselves to what was conceived of back in the 1700s. Next slide. What if we could rewrite the Constitution? And another question is, what if we don't? That's something to think about. Next slide. Guess what? We are the people, the Founding Mothers Movement, and all of your allies, and all the other stakeholders, an interpartisan movement. So across the political spectrum, can join together to change our system of government any way and any time we want. All that's required is a shared plan, a critical mass of supporters, and a motivation to overcome the barriers. We need, I believe, at this moment, we need to rescue America. Next slide. The Declaration of Independence itself said, whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute a new government. The people can, one of the delegates said, the people can change the Constitution whenever and however they please. This is a right of which no positive institutions can ever deprive them. Now, I'm sure you're asking the big question, well, how can we do all this? So next slide. There is an approach in democracy innovation called citizens' assemblies. And these are happening all across the world, and they're happening even here in the United States. And so the number one how is activating local citizens' assemblies in all of your cities and towns and counties and discuss and deliberate on the popular issues that the American people are facing right now. Then, and our idea is that we could try to get that to happen during 2025. Then the idea is to consolidate and bring together regional citizens' assemblies with a democratic drafting of a new transformed constitution. And that could happen in early 2026 if we get some velocity, or anytime this moves, it's ready to go. And then the third step of the how is to convene a national people's convention to actually draft the new constitution. And our idea that we're actively exploring with stakeholders now is that we should aim to do that, or we could aim to do that by July of 2026, the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. There is already a celebration being planned in Philadelphia. It's called Philadelphia 250. And we would like to convene this National People's Convention in and around that time, if possible. Then the idea is to ratify whatever is agreed to by that convention with the whole public. And then we can make history again. Next slide. So the founders, the male founders, I'll say, dared to reimagine democracy for their time. Now it's our turn to dream big, craft a system that reflects our delicious diversity, our values, and our aspirations. The National People's Convention is for people like us. And I just kind of can imagine the Founding Mothers movement being an anchor, driver, and catalyst for this possibility. Last slide. So we're seeking funding now, and we're trying to mobilize this with partners, and our idea is to build a new American dream with all of you. So I've included in the chat there this deck, so please feel free to share it. My email, my personal website, Dr. Paul Zeitz, and also the Unified Movements website. And we have a new website that's up now called Assemble America, where you can learn more about citizens' assemblies, which is actually a critical opportunity to bring together people of all walks of life and deliberate, learn together, deliberate, and come to a consensus on key questions that we're facing. So thank you so much for the time. I appreciate you all, and I appreciate this opportunity to be with you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. And we are so glad to be partnering with you. We fully support Unified Movements, along with the Founding Mothers movement and all coalitions that are forming right now. It's obviously the cutting edge of evolution. Everyone knows this is what we need to do. So before we go to our second Q&A segment, we wanted to tell you a bit more about the Global Women's Congress and our first direct action campaign. The Congress has been updated since the storied International Congress of Women, which met for the first time in 1878. Our reimagined Congress was designed to provide decentralized agency and maximum flexibility to our partners, while also providing centralized cohesion for monitoring the movement and executing our upcoming direct action campaigns. Futurist Barbara Marx Hubbard used to say that we need a peace room as sophisticated as a war room, and that is what we've built. Barbara used to say that war rooms are designed to map, track, and defeat enemies, while peace rooms will map, track, connect, and communicate solutions for the new world, a world that works for everyone. Now, sadly, most movements in the 21st century have failed for lack of organization, clear demands, and escalating chaos due to the absence of a strategic plan and infiltration by outside agitators. In short, leaderless movements like Occupy and Arab Spring may appear to support diversity, but they fail to bring true unity around a core purpose and clear demands. The media has no idea who to talk to, the main message gets jumbled, and the outcomes are worse than if there were no movement at all. In the case of Occupy, street reform never came, and the disparity of wealth has grown. And in the case of Arab Spring, they did get rid of a dictator in Egypt, but then the military came in to fill the power vacuum. Unity and diversity is our highest value. Our strategic plan and theories of change are based on system science and holism. By mimicking the organic and holistic nature of our bodies, our communities, our precious planet, and the universe, we will create a superorganism to achieve planetary partnership and peace. Also, a patriarchal or hierarchical command and control center may work well for the military, but for our movement, we want to tap feminine web thinking and whole brain processing. With the aid of spiral dynamics, the Peace Room is assessing the goals of all stakeholders and all worldviews. So we do comprehend the spectrum of consciousness within our coalition, and we encourage each of our partners to play to their strengths and follow their unique purpose. 1,000 points of light operating in silos will not change the world. But those same points of light, once unified, contain the power to finally shift the paradigm. So let us gather our expertise, our life experience, and cultural diversity and truly align. Let us co-create a field of benevolent possibilities and then anchor the exact timeline we seek. If we do this together, our natural flow and function will accelerate and expand exponentially. We will experience a rare and enhanced state of unity. Just imagine what will happen when millions of people collectively move into the zone and become a unified team. A team made of so many parts that the bad guys won't be able to handle our good trouble. Yes, truth, love, and light will guide our path. We are 4 billion sisters strong, and many of our brothers will join us. But we also need to be strategic and wise. So let me tell you about the Founding Mothers campaigns in 2025. First and foremost, we are working to synchronize all the activist calendars for 2025. It doesn't matter whether you march for Mother Earth and hold up a 350.org sign, whether you flash dance for peace with Marianne's Peace Alliance, or whether you strike for women's rights with Women's March. What matters is that we are all on the streets on the same day. Second, Founding Mothers has crafted a campaign called the Weekly Worldwide Wake Up. This will be our first campaign, and it will be a novel, repeating, nonviolent event. It will start on New Year's Day, which is a Wednesday. Thereafter, we will repeat this direct action every Wednesday until the Founding Mothers Proclamation is honored by every nation. Again, our demands are crystal clear and concise. Full rights for all women, including reproductive freedom and the end of war. So here's what we're asking you to do. Starting on January 1st and every Wednesday thereafter, go outside and make noise at high noon in every time zone around the world. Let the world know the Founding Mothers are here by heralding our arrival. You can sing, you can chant, play an instrument, bang a drum, or a household pot. The point is to have fun and let your neighbors know why you're making the noise. Or if you're old enough to remember the movie Network, you can go outside and scream, "I'm full of truth, love, and light, and I'm not going to take it anymore." One of our partners suggested that we use bird whistles as they produce unique and melodious sound that little kids will adore. So yes, if you have little ones at home, get them a bird whistle, go outside at noon every Wednesday and let them blow. Or if you're at work, take your lunch break at noon, go outside and make some noise. Or if you're free on Wednesdays and live near a park or another public space, all the better. Again, have fun with this direct action. Belly dance in the streets while chanting. Produce a singing flash mob at your local courthouse. Let the world know the Founding Mothers are here. Gandhi once said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. So let them laugh at us. Who cares? Eventually, our friends, family, and neighbors will join us. I also want you to know that we ran the weekly worldwide wake up by our Founding Mothers AI avatar that our tech lead Amanda Sanders made for us. And the AI loved this campaign. I asked her, how will the world react to a direct action campaign that makes lots of noise once a week for 5 minutes? And here's her answer, quote, A direct action campaign that makes a lot of noise once a week for 5 minutes can generate significant attention and reaction worldwide. Here are some possible scenarios. Initially, people would be startled and curious about the sudden noise. Social media will buzz with questions and speculation about the cause and the meaning behind the noise. As the weekly noise continues, awareness and interest will grow. Media outlets will cover the story, and the campaign will gain momentum. People will begin to understand the purpose and message behind the noise, and some will join in, making even more noise. Governments, institutions, and corporations will then take notice, and some may respond with statements or actions. The noise will become a symbol of resistance and a demand for change. Over time, the weekly noise will become an anticipated event, with people looking forward to participating and showing support. The campaign will inspire other movements and actions, creating a ripple effect of positive change worldwide, end quote. So let's do this, people. On Wednesday, January 1st, 2025, and every Wednesday thereafter, please go outside at noon and make noise for at least 5 minutes. Herald the arrival and the staying power of the founding mothers and help build the mother of all movements. So now we're going to move into our second Q&A session. And again, if you would use the raise hand feature, we'll take some questions before we end the town hall. Do we have any questions? People are being shy. Here we go. Eleanor's got her hand raised.
That's great. I appreciate it. So two things. First of all, Paul, I welcome your participation and your membership in the movement, and fully respect you as a partner. And at the same time, I must respectfully disagree with virtually everything you said. That I agree with the part about unity and bringing Americans together and gathering in local communities to say what we want. I think that's fantastic. But the idea that we're going to have local assemblies that will rewrite the Constitution, I think is extremely dangerous. I'm sure you must be aware there's a move by the right wing to do exactly that, to convene a constitutional convention according to Article 5 of the Constitution allows for it to be revised at a convention. It hasn't happened before, but for many years, the right wing has been planning for this, practicing for it. They've even had mock constitutional conventions, figuring out what the rules are. And there are a lot of the millionaires and billionaires who want to restrict and restrain the voice of the American people and the power of the American people by taking away many of the rights that are in our Constitution. And anything like what you're talking about is seriously subject to being hijacked once it's underway by the right wing, which is ready to, I mean, they could rip up the Bill of Rights. They could take away your right to a trial by jury. They could take away your right to freedom of assembly. They could take away the right of freedom of speech. Once you're in the Constitutional Convention, there's virtually no way to control which way it's going to go. And there's a lot of people already organized to undermine and rewrite the Constitution in a very negative way for the American people. So that's my deep concern about that. That may be a longer conversation. I would like, on the other hand, to support what Laura is saying, I think is a good way to go, strategies for mobilizing people in nonviolent direct action, focus on what we want to create, partnership and peace, get engaged, get together, mobilize, and work for that. But we need to cherish the Constitution right now and protect it from people who do want to shred it. So thank you for allowing me to express my concerns.
Do you want to respond, Paul, briefly?
Yes, thank you, Eleanor, so much. I appreciate your candor and your honest reaction. I am tracking very carefully the Convention of States, which is a MAGA-led effort to reconstruct the Constitution in their order. And there is no other response happening from the majority of Americans who wouldn't want to live under their framework. And so I think the ideas that I'm putting forward are an opportunity to outflank them by generating a people's-driven process and actually do what they did in 1787. They created the Constitution outside the bounds of the Articles of Confederation. So we're proposing the National People's Convention to be done extra-constitutionally and to supersede the system that we're currently trapped under, which perpetrates the gender inequality and perpetrates the war machine, and that you all, the Founding Mothers movement, are trying to dismantle. So I think that I'd love to talk with you further, and I understand there are risks to the ideas, and let's go back to where we agree, which is citizens' assemblies, and the idea that citizens can be brought together locally and regionally to learn together, deliberate, and come up with common sense solutions. That approach is something that is the starting point. And whether or not it evolves into constitutional reconstruction, I hope it will. But let's start with whatever issues people want to address locally. And that is already happening around the country and around the world. So this is a model for your global movement as well.
I appreciate that, and I still think it's dangerously naive to think that gathering people's assemblies right now is going to do anything other than support what the right wing is very well organized, very well financed, very strategic. They've already had these mock constitutional conventions.
Yeah,
they want to take away our rights, not expand them. And I don't see any way that what you're talking about is not going to get hijacked by that. So I think if you drop the Constitutional Convention, shredding the convention and rewriting it, and focus more on getting people together, on envisioning the kinds of communities they want, and envisioning how do we get there, I'm 100% with you, and I'll be engaging with you with that. But if there's any whiff that you think you're going to convene a constitutional convention and it's not going to end up in a negative, hostile way for the average American, I will not associate in any way with that kind of an initiative. Thank you.
Well, I think where there is common ground here, obviously, and we've modeled it with our Women's Congress, is that these assemblies are needed, forums and incubators for sharing ideas for the future, for the world we seek. It's also happening online. The virtual nation movement is hot among young people. So again, it's the cutting edge of consciousness at the moment for everyone to be both coming together, in cohesion in these coalitions, and also exploring what we need to do in terms of the future of our institutions, including governance. They were all created by founding fathers, regardless of the nation, right? I mean, the whole system was set up, as Paul pointed out in the presentation, hundreds of years ago. So they don't reflect current contemporary values, morals, or laws. In many instances, the constitutions are so vague that they're not representative of later statutes. And we've got the Comstock Act to deal with. Talk about an old law that's going to come back and bite us in the ass. That's how they may finally tank medicinal abortion medicine. Okay, but before we get off on that tangent, because they brought us lawsuit here, the Federalist Society actually came to the little town I live in to see if they could get the Comstock Act endorsed by our local board of supervisors. Just crazy stuff happening out there, people. All right, another question. Let's see. Arthur has his hand up.
Okay. Yes, I think Paul's instinct is right about people. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, people's assemblies, but it's got to be global. I mean, we can't be crazy. The whole problem is this broken nation state system where it's one world, we're one planet, and we've carved it up into these separate nation states, and there's no way it can be functional. How could a body operate if it had 197 different brains all pulling in different directions? It would crash and burn. A computer with 197 different operating systems would crash and burn. We've got to come together as one planet. We, the people, are the superpower. We have to rise above the borders that divide us and have, and you know, your part, Laura, of the Earth Constitution. Well, I think we need to even evolve it beyond that, working with young people to have, you know, an interactive system that not with the 51% win and 49% lose, and not the old win-lose democracy, but something that brings out a synergy where people are connecting. And well, I made a movie called The World Is My Country, and Gary Davis and I, and working with Barbara Marx Hubbard and Plucky Fuller people, developed the concept of a synergistic system of governance where we have, similar to these, you know, Zoom meetings we're having, but we have tools that allow us to communicate across political boundaries, to find out what are our real hopes and wishes and what are our visions. And we find people, you know, we can come to common ground if we have a certain different kind of system. The current system is a race to the bottom and extinction. We need to create a new interactive global system that gives us the power to bring people together across all these boundaries. We need an app. We're working on, we want to work with the Carter Center now and Rotary in developing an app that is an add-on to Zoom that allows people of opposite sides of issues to come together and puts the conflict resolution tools right at their fingertips and so on. Anyway, there's a lot we can do, but the thinking's got to be global. Thank you.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Arthur. That's why we made the Women's Congress global. And I just want to point out that Arthur is another one of the Founding Mothers partners. He represents a nonprofit, Future Wave, that was based on the work of one of the lead peacemakers of all time, Gary Davis, who renounced his U.S. citizenship in favor of world citizenship. And to this day, they do pass out, and well, they print world citizen passports. So it's so great to have you here, Arthur. And I'll also add that World Federalists are being attracted to the Founding Mothers movement because there are a lot of World Federalists involved, and I'm not the only one. And I also want to point out that our Founding Mothers proclamation makes reference to some of the best ideas of the World Federalists, which is a movement that formed after it became obvious that the United Nations was going to be a non-democratic body when they created the Security Council. So we're very much aware of all the storied work that the Earth Federalists have done. We agree that a global approach is needed. And real specifically, we agree that until there is mandatory jurisdiction at the International Court of Justice, we can't stop war, right? We have to provide an alternate forum for these countries. You're right, the nation state system is also antiquated, but that's how they resolve conflict when they can't agree. And we need a judicial body with mandatory authority and jurisdiction to resolve these sorts of conflicts peaceably. So thank you, Arthur. So glad you're one of our partners and love you. Anybody else? We've run a little long, but we can keep questions going if people want to keep going. Go ahead, Jean.
Well, I thank you. I would really like to expand on what Arthur said. I'm totally in agreement. I think it needs to be global. And also, I thought one way, being an elder at 75 years old, we need to again bring the youth together. And the youth may not recall the We Are the World that happened, and it was a global event that I think half the population of the world tuned in the mid 80s. And Quincy Jones recently died. And I think that if we could do something, if Marianne might have influence, Arthur might have influence to get some movers and shakers in the music world to mount something, because we're on the edge of a nuclear war right now. We don't have a moment to spare. So I do think that music can connect all races, classes, genders, ages, and that is universal language. So thank you.
Yes. I was a little too young during the 1960s, but I know all the music, right? I mean, I was a little kid, but you're right. Music is a universal language. And so I'm going to put the shout out right now for artists of all genres to please assist the Founding Mothers movement. Maybe our first good noise on January 1st, 2025 at noon could be, this anthem that we all play, and that is heard around the world. So these are the types of ideas that we are kicking around in the campaign circle. The campaign circle meets every Thursday. We have 5 operational circles. And so Monday's media day, Tuesday's tech day, Wednesday's partner day, Thursday's campaigns, and Friday is proclamation day. So please come to the website, sign up, volunteer for one of these circles. And yes, special shout out to the artists, special shout out to the artists, the musicians, the performers. Hey, Erica. Good to see you. She's still muted, I think. No, she's unmuted. And thanks, Jean, for your input. That was great. I'm not sure if Erica froze. Oh, here she comes. Yeah, maybe without your video going, Erica.
Okay, yeah, I had it off and I was asked to turn it on. So now I'd like to speak to the work that Paul is doing. And I want to say that I really appreciated Eleanor's comments and her concerns, because those concerns are extremely real. But there are some safeguards in place with the Constitution as it is today, as we all know. The Equal Rights Amendment was never ratified because it could not get 2/3 majority vote at the different state levels. We run into that same situation again. And now, because of the way the Constitution is written and with those protections, so that Eleanor's concerns, okay, it's asking me to start my video again. I'm not going to because of internet connections. In 2014, I began a petition on whitehouse.gov, which we are allowed to petition our government. And that's the point of it being done there. To amend the Constitution for a true civil rights amendment to the Constitution, to guarantee the rights of everyone equally. It was received, it was posted, and we needed, I believe, 35,000 signatures to even get it to be fully recognized, which we could not get, and we were publicizing it everywhere. So I would definitely be interested in working with Paul in any way whatsoever towards that, because regardless, unless it is ratified by 2/3 of the vote according to the rules of the Constitution, one can change it, including the right wing. Right. And I'm a transgender woman with a very vested interest in what happens with this administration, because every day since the election, I have worked with youth that are deeply depressed and becoming suicidal because their rights are about to be stripped. But it's just not the LGBT community. It's women's rights are under attack. Our immigrants' rights are under attack. Our religious freedom is under attack.
Absolutely.
Created a most perfect love foundation. I did it as a church because I knew the day would come when we would have to go as high as the Supreme Court to challenge that freedom of religion.
Yes.
Strongest protections that we have within the Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah, we also operate a church, and I've been talking to reproductive rights advocacy groups because, Roe was decided under the 14th Amendment, and there are many churches that believe the Godhead is, this balanced masculine, feminine, divine Godhead, and that women have full rights. And so the argument's never been made under the First Amendment that abortion is a right. I also want to add about the ERA. We actually did get the 38th state, and it's my state. It's Virginia. This is crazy what's holding it up. And let's give me 1 minute to explain what's holding it up, because we can all be writing Biden right now. It was going to go to be printed as law, and Bill Barr stopped it. He wrote a letter to Eleanor, help me out here. What's the office of the government that prints it's part of the Library of Congress. And on his letterhead as Attorney General, he stopped it. All we need right now is for Merrick Garland to write a letter to say, go ahead and print it. It's real law. So the ERA could be resolved that fast. You raised a whole host of issues, Erica, about LGBTQ rights, our youth. Yeah, the fascists are coming, and we need to cohere quickly, wisely, and in a way that, again, exhibits our values, our voice, and in a way that they're not anticipating, and they may not understand, but they will, because there is a universal language. And if we stand up for truth and love and light, and we seek planetary partnership and peace, those are universal values. I think the Founding Mothers movement and the coalition, Erica's in the coalition too, we've only been at this for 5 months, and it's growing really quickly. Again, it's not another nonprofit. It's a Meta Unity brand. Please join Founding Mothers movement and help us build this and help us steer this ship, because we're going to be going into choppy waters very soon.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you for clarifying the ERA.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. It's just that simple to get it done. So
yeah.
I would say that I know what's on my plate, and that's to start to petition.
Well, everyone, we have gone 30 minutes over, and it was a fabulous additional 30 minutes that I'm so glad we got to share with you. I think it's time to go ahead and end the town hall. And we're going to be doing this every third Thursday. And this will be the public space in which to share your thoughts. The Women's Congress is a private space, partly because we're protecting delegates who live in dangerous parts of the world. But again, men are welcome at every level of Founding Mothers, except that once a month Congress. And help us do it. Let's do it together. Let's build the mother of all movements. Thank you so much for coming today.
The year is 2030, and the Founding Mothers movement has successfully shifted the paradigm. We have achieved a great victory. We have fully empowered women around the world, and we have stopped an evil that no people before us were able to prevent. We have ended war. Women now have universal gender equity. Women have bodily autonomy and reproductive choice. Laws are in place to prevent child marriage. Cultures forbid family violence and genital mutilation, and relationships between women and men enter a field of understanding and compassion. For the first time in human history, our precious planet is at peace. The military-industrial complex is now a peacekeeping force, and men no longer are asked to kill their brothers. As a result, there is ample money available for healthcare, daycare, and elder care. Schools are being built around the world to educate all girls. Projects abound and are fully funded to provide novel green infrastructure and protect the commons. Artificial intelligence is properly monitored and employed for benevolent projects that enhance life on Earth. Now Mother Earth can regenerate. Animal, plant, and ocean life are revived and add to the euphoria of this new golden age. All my relations, one of the original instructions, is a lesson taught in every school, along with mindfulness. There now exists a universal inner knowing that together we can accomplish anything. Planetary governance has reached a new level of inclusion, collaboration, and coordination. The nation-state system yields to regional and local models of self-organization. Intentional communities and cottage industries abound, creating self-sufficient economies. Globalization now means that we are one species with one shared destiny. Personal freedom is intertwined with responsibility, which we gladly share as members of one human family. The news story is told far and wide. Our children know it by heart. Songs are written in its honor. Truth, love, and light reign on earth. As above, so below. Join the Founding Mothers movement and help transform the world.